squad, yeah. Trap at any spot, yeah. My new bitch got long hair. Hate on me, I don't care. Brand new Jordans came out, where I caught my phone.
Okay, so let's jump into this. Today, I want to discuss a few things with the player DNA option versus the create a player. As we all know, create a player, you can go right to create a player and just begin creating real or fictional characters that you may want to add to different rosters at some point. Okay, so as far as the create a player goes, you can create a player from scratch and then edit every attribute to your heart's desire. Okay, so but that's basically what this is for. You create a player here, and then this list will appear in your different game modes outside of my career, and you will be allowed to add these players at any point into a my career or a into a my career, my GM season, or anything like that, or even a draft class also. All right, so basically you would be able to add the player into a roster or draft class after you make them. Now, player DNA is a little different, and it is also similar. Now, player DNA, if you have not created any player DNA, you cannot create player DNA from this main menu screen, from the options/feature screen. When you go to player DNA, you may not see anything there. Now, as you can see on my screen, of course, I have some player DNA here because I've saved it. If you have not fiddled with the player DNA options, how you access this is you either need to go into a roster or go into create a player. And we're going to go into create a player. And you need to go inside of edit player, either in a roster or in create a player. Scroll all the way down, and then you'll have the option to either import player DNA or export player DNA. If you've not created any player DNA, then you can import player DNA from an NBA player from the current roster that you have loaded, or you could load player DNA from the internet. Yeah. So I'm going to I'm going to show you. So if you don't have any DNA created, what you would do is you would just click export. Let me try it again. Click export, and then you would go to add new player, and you'll have an option. Now you'll have an option to save and share the player DNA, or just save the player DNA. If you don't care about sharing the player DNA with others on your platform, so I'm on PC, I don't care about sharing this current DNA. This is a test DNA. Don't care about sharing this with others, so I would just click save player DNA, and it will save it locally to my computer. Now this is going to be enter a name for your file. You don't have to enter the name of the player that you're trying to replicate, because player DNA can be used for more than just creating specific players. You can create a stock archetype or build for a player. Let's say I'll name this crafty guard. So sorry, I named it crafty guard. So I press enter, and so now I have the DNA for a crafty guard type player. And since I'm in create a player, I'm just going to go to, remove changes and return. And as you can see, I'm in the create a player menu. Now I'm going to back out, go to player DNA. Now let's look here at my DNA descriptions. First, I have DNA 6. That was just a random name, but as you can see, they also list the player names just in case you want to port that information over to a specific player. So this one here is my Paul George creation, my Paul George DNA, which this is not for one specific player model, as most people use this. So most people would think, okay, he has a Paul George DNA creation. Please upload that to Player DNA so I can download that. Actually, I use this for multiple instances of Paul George. So I use this as a base for the young Pacers Paul George. And then I also imported this into the Oklahoma City Paul George. And I changed his hair, gave him an afro. And I also did a 2018-2019 version from Media Day where he has different facial hair, but I use this as a base. So using the player DNA stuff as a base is really the second way that most people don't really use DNA. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll understand more when I go through this. So crafty guard, that's what we're going to focus on for this video, the crafty guard. All right. Even though he's not a guard, we're going to pretend he's a guard. Say, okay, crafty guard. So if I wanted to import, if I was creating a, let's say I'm creating a draft class and I want to create, 3 different prospects that are going to be considered a crafty guard, then what I would do is, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to go to create a draft class. Just do a new draft class. And let's say this guy. Nah, since he's the first pick in the draft, I'm not going to do him. But like this second top PG. All right. I'm going to go to edit player. I'm going to go all the way down to import player DNA. Load/download. And then like these first few are my DNAs, and then everything else is like stuff other people have created. So I'm going to go to crafty guard and just import attributes and keep appearance. And now that I've done that, I would have ported over all of this player's information, basically. The good thing is he'll have all the tendencies, hot zones, and attributes. Also, he'll have all of the animations. And so from that point on, I know, okay, well, I basically have a base for a crafty guard type player. So now I just go in and edit a few things to try and make him different from the base DNA. Anyway, so I would do that. But then I would also want to go up to vitals. And make sure, well, the vitals won't get changed, but it shouldn't be changed. The vitals should not be changed. All right. Just wanted to make sure his name didn't change over to my DNA name. All right, so I would keep changes and return, and then as you can see, his overall rating changes here, but I would have changed like a few animations, a few ratings, attribute ratings. I would have changed just a little bit to make him unique and not exactly like the DNA that I imported, but overall his tendencies and ratings will resemble that of a crafty guard. Okay, but as you can see, it also changes the position, so I need to make sure if I'm going to make a crafty guard, he needs to be a guard, so it will change their position. But anyway, so I'm going to back out of this draft class, go back to the player DNA. So yeah, that's how I would use this crafty guard thing, but I would need to have an actual guard with crafty attributes. So basically a non-athletic guard who's uses their IQ to kind of take over the game for them. That's their best attribute, would probably be an IQ. And then I will go in And if you want to create a new DNA, I don't suggest like going to edit player inside of the DNA screen and then messing around with stuff. Never do that. Just always go back to create a player and just start a new one. So now let's say I wanted to make an athletic guard. I would go through everything here. I will go through all of this stuff. And let's see, especially the attributes and tendencies. And I would make it very similar to an athletic guard. Or I would just go to whoever I consider the prototype athletic guard in the NBA, and I would export their DNA and under the save name athletic guard, and then I would have a base. So hopefully you guys get that. You guys understand what I'm saying, I hope. So let's continue looking at my descriptions. So as you can see here, we already went over the first two. The next two is entered draft, and then for college roster, graduate for college roster. So I'm going to go over these in a separate video. But to round out this video, let's go into my league. All right, so to round out this video, I'm going to show you where the player DNA and create a player options inside of like my league or my GM, where they can kind of come together. All right, so if we go over to front office and then just scroll to the right, the very end, the last two options is create a player and player DNA. So you can still access these things here. Again, I would not recommend trying to create a new player DNA save from the player DNA menu. I would only use this to just access what you already have saved. If you want to create a new player DNA, just go to create a player, then make all your edits, and of course, go all the way down to export player DNA. Okay. And you wouldn't have to save that player as a creative player. You would just say export the DNA. All right. So anyway, where these two options meet in my league and my GM is that, let's see. Actually, where they meet is, I can't remember. Yeah. I wonder if I go to free agents, will it show me? No, it won't. Okay. So you can actually add these guys to the free agent pool from this player DNA screen. And of course, you know, from last year, from 2K18, you can add the created players to the free agent pool from here while you're in the middle of a my league. So let's say you're this is your first year inside of my league or my GM, and then you've created a player that's in the actual NBA, but it's not in the game, but it's the middle of the year, and he's signed to a team. You can replicate that by just going to your create a player menu or player DNA, and then choosing to add the player to free agent pool. So let's do it. Let's go down to player DNA and do it. Let's do this guy, this Cody Boyd. So we'll go add player to free agent pool, player copy. Okay. So now we can go to free agents, and any team would be able to sign this player. Basically, in this my league, he would be the best free agent available, but any team would be able to sign him now, and he could get assigned to the E-League. The E-League. Gatorade. Is it E-League? Not the E-League. It's the G. Oh my goodness. The Gatorade G League. Goodness gracious. So many letters. All right, anyway. So I basically added this player straight from player DNA. You could do it that way or not. Also, like, let's go to Manu Ginobili. I could also go to edit player, and then while inside of my league or my GM or whatever, you can also import player DNA from here for this specific player. Let's say, if I wanted to, I'm gonna go to crafty guard. If I wanted to, instead of adding the player the other way, I could have just overwritten the player. Since Manu Ginobili is not playing in the NBA this season, I could just overwrite him with anybody, like import attributes and appearance, and then I could have just had him become him, and then I could have just said, okay, well, now Manu Ginobili is out of the league, and this guy is a free agent, up and coming free agent, getting noticed by teams, and not have to worry about Manu Ginobili ever appearing. But the bad part about that is then, if Manu Ginobili comes back, then you wouldn't be able to get him back in my league. Anyway, so let's get out of this. All right, so we're good. We're good to go. But that's just some of the differences with the creator player versus the player DNA. Okay, so basically for a creator player, I would use creator player if I have a full blown player that I want to have created, and then player DNA is I mostly use that for like creating a template for a position or trying to create an archetype type build for attributes and tendencies, or what most people use it for is just, if I want to have a specific appearance, appearance, or both the appearance and ratings, I can just apply it to any player, whether it be a real player or fictional player. Anyway, that's it for this video. I just want to go over some things for creative player versus player DNA. Let you guys know there are some differences. I will do more videos on the player DNA because there are a few intricacies that I don't see many people discussing. So I'll do more videos on that in the future. All right, guys, that is it for this one.